Hi, this last week I was asked a question about how to disciple your kids. You know, we're doing this series right now all about why God, the big questions, and about worldview. And one of the initiatives of our church is to get kids ready for the world, to be able to face the challenges that they're going to get in the universities, in the media, their peer groups. And so, again, the question was, well, how do I disciple my kids? And a couple things I would say about that. It depends on the age of your kids. So at the end of this video, we put together some resources you could dive into. But, and again, it really does depend on the age of your kids, the kind of questions they're having. And so studying yourself, being ready with an answer, becoming familiar with the challenges and getting ready is great. But I would say this as well. In my life, what I had to do was to surround myself with godly friends. I had to put barriers, rails on the road of my life that keep me consistent and directed. I had to abide in Christ in my own life so that I wouldn't just react when there was a problem, but I was consistently leading in a direction with my kids. And I don't know about you, but if I forget where I'm at, I'm going over there, and I'm not being consistent with my kids until there's a problem, then I would jump in. So abiding in Christ yourself, being in a life group of believers, growing yourself, being reminded constantly of the spiritual things is so important, or you will drift. So I say it this way: a drowning man can't help a drowning man. You both go under. If you're on the rock, if you're walking with Jesus consistently, then you're more spiritually aware of what's going on, you're more proactive, and you're more consistent. Some of the things that I did with my wife and I is when our kids were little, we had to discipline ourselves that every night we would pray with our kids. We would read stories with our kids. As they got older and they started to want to do other things, they started to get busy, and we had to lead. We had to remind ourselves that our job isn't to make our kids happy according to their ideas of what happiness is. Our job is to prepare them and to lead them to Christ. So we had to decide, if we're going to be involved in sports, it's only this much because they're going to be in youth group. They're going to be at church. They're going to be in spiritual relationships. Relationships are like ropes. The more ropes they have, the more solidly held into this place that they need to be. So I wanted them to get to know people that would speak things into their life, that even when they got to the point that I'm just dad and they don't want to listen, they had relationships with other people that would reinforce what I was teaching and what I believed, but it came from someone else. So creating this environment, consistent environment with other godly people, being careful about what friendships I allow them to have. Again, they're going to want what they want. And our job is to be the parent, not their friends. Someday we're going to be their friends. Someday we're going to move from being a parent and they're going to see us as stupid and controlling. But then as they get older and they start having kids and you become the smartest person on the planet. You just have to make sure you understand your role. It starts with you, barriers and boundaries in your own life so that you can be consistent. You're modeling something. Leading your family rather than pursuing your family's desires and interests, your kids, that sport or that cheerleading practice or whatever. I'm not saying it's all or nothing. It's not, they shouldn't be involved in that at all. But I can tell you this, I know plenty of sports people who are divorced, they don't know Jesus, they were great at sports, but in college they got a scholarship so somebody could teach them how to be liberal Democrats who don't believe in God. And, and I'm not saying all Democrats don't believe in God, but my point being, they have this conversation at Christmas someday where their kid starts telling them everything they believe, and you're wondering, how did you come up with those views? And that's not what we believe in our home. And they go, well, that's not what you believe. You were pursuing their sports. They got good at sports, so you could hand them off to a teacher to teach them all the things you don't actually believe because you let them lead, or you took your eye off the ball instead of leading and pursuing Christ yourself. So I would say, again, you're walking with Jesus, you're staying consistent, you're building relationships, you're leading, you're getting to know your kids well enough that you're talking about Jesus wherever you go, as you walk along the road, as you sit, when you're out hunting, you're having spiritual conversations. You're sharing your relationship with Jesus. That's personal, and I'm not going to tell you about it. That's craziness. Your job is to talk about what Jesus is doing in your life consistently, in every chance you get. And not just a devotional time where we sit and we open the Bible, but as you go. Those are the best times. Again, your kids need to see the sincerity of your faith, and you need to be able to ask questions, give honest answers, and then come back with answers and be able to answer those questions. It's an ongoing dialogue, but it starts with intentionality on your part. So that's a lot. It's kind of all over the board, but it starts there. Again, there are resources here. Your church family is there to support you, to come alongside your kids, but you need to lead that in your family. So I hope you do that.